Hey there! Today we're going to talk about Visconti Sepia. I only have this amount of Visconti Sepia. This was Eric sent me this as an ink sample. I do want to show you the original Visconti bottle, so I don't have the Sepia, but I have other Visconti inks. And when you buy them like this, which I think is pretty awesome. This is not glass, it's plastic, but you can still use this for a quick dram on the road, which is useful. It has a nice stand for the ink bottle, which is just awesome. And the whole bottles, I mean, even though this is not glass, I do think this is a very, very nice design. It has, I mean, it's easy to grip, so that's useful when you're filling a pen. It's nice to hold it. It has Visconti, and then in different languages. Fountain pen ink right there. I think this looks a bit like a heliograph or something. I think it's very nice. I love it. It has Visconti on the cap. I mean, even though it's just plastic, I think, I mean, design went into this, and I appreciate that. This is the purple ink. I may do that for Inkcyclopedia one day. For now, we'll talk about sepia. Now, sepia is a great color. I mean, I love sepia. It evokes all kinds of images in my mind, and it's a nice brown. It runs from relatively light, I think, to fairly dark and saturated brown, depending on the nib you use. Has good flow properties. So far, I haven't really seen a bad Visconti ink, but I only have 3. But I think they're pretty awesome. So I think it's a very nice ink. I know there's a lot of people out there who love brown inks. I'm one of them. I particularly like Stephen Brown, and that's it's cool. So I hope this is going to be useful, and I'll see you later. Bye bye. Okay, so it is an extremely bleak and rainy day here, so I have to use artificial light. I hope this is going to work out. What we have here is Visconti. Sepia. I'll start with fine writing. As you can see, even with this fine nib, you already see a bit of shading in there, which is, I think, quite exceptional. Very nice. Medium. Where it was a very, well, light brown in fine, I think we see it's a bit darker now in medium. This is a fairly wet nib. Okay, so here we have a broad nib. Nice and wet. It's a much darker brown here, this ink, as you can see. Again, shading is pretty nice here. We'll go for an Italic. Very nice pen, this, the Italic Parsons Essential. I really love it. As you can see, nice bit of shading. It's not extreme shading as with Apache Sunset, for example, but I do think it's very nice. Gives a nice bit of line variation. I think Sepia is a pretty well chosen name here. Okay, let's have a look at some passes with a very broad nib. We would have 1, 2, 3 passes. 1. This is going to be 2. And this is going to be 3 passes. I'll return to those in a minute. Let's do a bit of flex writing. Always interesting. So we have, I think Visconti is a good flex word, if my pen doesn't railroad. Visconti Sepia much darker and more saturated when used under full flex. Difficult to get line variation out of this pen, but sepia is a word that I find extremely evocative. I don't know about you, but I always see images of old pictures with those frayed edges, slightly yellowed over time, that you would find in an old attic or something. A bit of Italic again, try to get some line variation out of that. Sepia. Okay, so what we seem to have is a nice dark brown. Is it dry? Or? Yeah, it's pretty dry. I'll do a second pass here. Come back for a third one there. Let's have a look at the ink before we do the water test. I think you can see here it's a nice, well, fairly dark brown, I guess. It's least pronounced in the fine writing, where it's quite light brown. But as soon as you go to medium and then broad, you see it's much darker. I like that a lot. As I said, nice bit of shading. I don't actually see a whole lot of feathering, but this is Rhodia paper. I'll come back to cheap copier paper. But now I think we should first try and do a waterproofness test. So I have a 6mm parallel nib here. S for sepia. Let's have a look at how that will do. I have to cheat a little bit here. There we go. And also we should do some regular writing. I'll do that with a medium nib and see how water will affect that. Sepia memories. Come back to that with some water. But first, I think that's something that's pretty dry. Yep. third pass for a highly, highly, highly saturated nib. Alright. So even though that is still wet, I think you can see this beautiful gradation going from an interesting, a nice brown. I'm trying to think of the name of a nut in English now. Chestnut. That's what I was looking for. I'm not sure whether this is actually, chestnut's a little bit redder, I guess, but if you move to that end of the spectrum, I remember seeing a lot of chestnuts that look like that, have that color, so. Interesting. Okay, well this is dry, I'd say. Yes, so we can start there. Sepia memory is being faded. This is still a bit wet, so I'll return to that, but for now I think we should first try and do a scorecard. So, what do we have? We have cleaning. Well, as far as I can remember, cleaning was pretty good. It was easy, no real issues. We have bleed through. Bleed through I'll have to check. Color, well it's what, sepia, right? A deep brown. Shading, well, I would say shading is very good. I wouldn't call it excellent, but I would say it's very good. I like the ink a lot. Flow, well, as far as I'm concerned, flow is excellent. Never had any problems with it. And I have Visconti black, I have Visconti purple. Purple, for me, I find that a little dry. Black is okay. This one is definitely not dry. So I would say flow is excellent. Then we have feathering. Well, so far that looks good, but this is Rhodia paper, so I'll come back to that. Drying, well, as you can see, or as you could see, it dried fairly quickly, so I'd say drying is very good. Drying time. Waterproofness, well, I've just sort of dunked this into water. You can in fact still read what it said. It ran, but it's not entirely gone. Unlike the, for example, Waterman Florida Blue I did last time, where the writing was pretty much gone. So I think that's okay. By now I think this, yeah, with such a wide nib it does take a bit of time to dry, but I do want to move on, so I'll just use a sheet of blotting paper here. There we go, that's dry enough. So bear in mind, parts of this will be a little wetter, but I think it's pretty dry now. Okay, let's see what that does. Of course, it's just water again, so. Isn't that artistic? And with this letter, what I'll do is just apply some pressure here, see how that works out. Really absorb the water when it's wet. Well, as you can see, you can roughly see the shape of the letter, but it does suffer. So I would say waterproofness is okay at best. It could be worse, it could be better. Alright, so that would be, come on, thank you. That would be this. Now what about some cheaper copier paper? Well, we can do that too. We'll start with fine again. looking for my underlay, sorry. Stop moving around. This is fine. Now it says Gwick. Well, the Gwick brown. Well, then it's fox, I guess. If we're having Gwick, then we're having fox. Yumps. Hoover. The Crazy Frog. Don't you even dare to start singing that bloody song now. Okay. Medium. Yeah. I have no idea. I was thinking about French, but I can't really figure it out. Le fox avec grande vitesse. Jumpese over. I can't even figure that out. I haven't spoken French for too long. The lazy chien. That's possible. Okay, so this was semi-French. Broad. Well, if it's broad, fat fox was thrown. If he's fat, he can't jump anymore, right? Over the fat dog. Italic. And then some ultra wide hugeness of nibbage. What do we do this time? Oh yeah, I'm G. I did that very slowly on purpose, hoping to induce some feathering. But in all honesty, so far, I don't see a whole lot of feathering here. I don't know about you, but I don't really. Now, when it comes to this point, let me see, do I have a loop here? I used to have one. There we go. These really wet bits, you see the feathering there, right? So that's something we've got, but that requires going very slow with a 6mm nib. I don't suppose you write your grocery lists like this. So the feathering seems to be very much under control, but what about flex writing? What if you just love using copier paper for flex? Oh baby, I just love writing me some flex on the copier paper. Well, that's a lot of ink, and I see feathering. See it very clearly there. it's pronounced right. I don't think I even need the loop, but especially not if it's making everything fall into shadows, but I think you can see it there, right? It's clear. It's very clear. So you can make the ink feather, but you need to go through some lengths to do it. What about bleed through? Bleed through is severe, but this is extremely fat writing. But there definitely is bleed through for the regular writing, and not just. I mean, when you compare it to this is Waterman Florida Blue, the Boy Scout among inks, always well behaved and friendly and helping others. There is no bleed through there. There is bleed through here, and not just with the wide nibs. I already see it at this point. I'm pretty sure that's medium. So when it comes to bleeding through, you can expect some with this ink. Apparently, let's have a look at the Rhodia paper. Sorry for the paper noises. I had to organize some stuff here. In Rhodia it's better, but then again it's heavier paper, it's thicker paper, it's nicer paper. You see a little bit right there, but this is 3 passes with a 6mm nib, so it's not strange that you actually see something. There's a little bit there, but this was a 6mm nib with water poured over it, so I think that's still pretty impressive. But so bleed through is, I would say, depending on the paper, it can be okay to good. When it comes to feathering, well, I'd say it's good. I mean, it takes cheap copier paper and a 6mm nib or extreme flex to make it feather, so that's actually pretty impressive. So, there you have it. I hope this was useful. Visconti Sepia, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.